What's happening with gold?
Well,
What do you like? What do you
gold
don't like?
gold isn't $35 an ounce anymore, which is when I first got involved in it back before 1971. Inflation of the dollar, the destruction of the dollar is so subtle that gold, believe it or not, in 2001, when it was $255 an ounce, in real terms, deflated dollars, was cheaper in 2001 than it was in 1971. Let's say gold is $1,300 an ounce. I think we're on the cusp of another big bull market in gold. And one of the interesting things about the Bitcoin bubble, the cryptocurrency bubble, is that it's drawn a lot of people's attention to the fact that all of the currencies of the world are just fiat creations of their governments.
Amen. Amen.
And most of the governments in the world are bankrupt. I think that a lot of people are going to be driven into gold.
This one here is a bubble based on debt. And as you know, you and I are gold guys, it doesn't make sense to us that an economy can be this big based on debt. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's extremely dangerous. It started in 2007 and blew up in 2008. And the way I describe it is the world economy entered a gigantic financial hurricane back then.
Right.
And we entered the eye of the storm in 2010. And it's a big hurricane because all of these governments, not just the U.S., but the EU, the Chinese, the Japanese, all of them, have created trillions and trillions and trillions of new currency units, which was like pouring oil on the water by bailing out all these big, poorly managed corporations and so forth, and reduced interest rates to zero or below, which I thought was metaphysically impossible. So that I think we're going into the trailing edge of the hurricane, and it's going to be much longer lasting and much worse and much different than what happened in 2008 and 2009.
What do you see? What would it look like?
Well, it's the old question. Is all this funny money created out of midair going to vanish with stock market crashes and bond defaults and bank collapses, where it all just vanishes and for a while the dollar becomes worth more, a deflation? Or are they going to keep printing up even more money in attempt thinking that that'll work? That's what I think they're going to do. So I think that we're going to see very high levels of inflation. Prices are going to be rising all over quickly. And it's going to hurt the average guy most, which it always does. It helps speculators who can position themselves to take advantage of it. But I think it's going to be a massive depression. I call it the Greater Depression because it's going to be much worse than the unpleasantness of 1929 to 1946.
Our guest today is Doug Casey, world-renowned speculator and libertarian philosopher, wrote a definitive book on profiting from periods of economic turmoil. His book is called Crisis Investing, The Speculator, the guys who travel the world looking for gold and opportunities. And our fallback position is gold, because there's no counterparty to it. I mean, gold is just gold. The same as blockchain, I think, is just that trust that I don't trust the government. I mean, I'm always voting against, the government. Any comments, Kim?
Yeah, well, and we like to invest, Doug, in things that are real, like gold, silver, real estate, oil, things like that. So so for our listeners and they see this bubble coming, what are some things that they could do to best be prepared as best possible?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys on that, because people that own these paper assets might find that they're holding nothing but paper.
I don't trust the dollar. That is really that simple. I don't trust anything that's printed. So Kim and I are not in the stock market. We don't hold ETFs. We don't hold mutual funds. We completely went hardcore, solid, see, touch, and feel. So so Doug is in that world. I mean, Kim and I spent the last 25 years hanging out in the gold industry. We started a silver mine in South America, an oil field in Portugal, and a gold company in China. And we actually were billionaires for about 2 years until the Chinese government said, thank you for finding all this gold. Right, Kim?
Yes, they did. And they said, thank you very much. And now we'll take over from here.
Yeah. And so, Doug Casey has always been kind of the guru behind the scenes. He's in what they call penny stocks and all this.
Well, he's an advocate for liberty and for free markets.
Yeah.
And we're all about freedom. And it seems like more and more of our freedom and our rights are getting squashed. And that's why he's living in Argentina and Uruguay. And I would recommend you get his newsletter, Conversations with Casey.
Our first question today comes from Wyatt in Fort Worth, Texas. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It says, Robert, you and Kim talk about holding gold as insurance. What do you mean by that?
That's a very good question. It goes back to what is money, and money is based upon trust. Everything I see in the world today, the more distorted it gets, is fake. I don't trust the dollar. I don't trust the yen. I don't trust the euro. So why would I save that stuff? And yet every mommy and daddy is telling their kids, oh, save money. It's intelligent. Are you nuts? They just printed 1.2 quadrillion of it, and you're saving it? Comments, Kim.
Well, I mean, it's insurance for us is that, okay, so the value of the dollar is going down. And if you don't know that, then go look at the price of a quart of milk today. It's a lot more today than it was a few years ago. And the other thing Doug said in this show, he also said what a lot of our experts say is do not put your money in the bank. And the reason being is because they don't trust the banks. I mean, the banks tomorrow could just say, oh, sorry, we're freezing everything. And your money is worth nothing. So gold, and in case Doug Casey also said to store your gold yourself. Don't store it in the bank. Don't store it elsewhere. Store it yourself so that you have access to it. Because if something like this were to happen, gold will be real money.
And gold or silver. I like what Doug said.
Silver too,
get
yes.
Smaller silver coins,
Yeah, that was
smaller gold
interesting.
coins. Because I tell you what, there's a lot of people running today. You know, there's people, they call it migration. It's not migration. They're fleeing.